Hello, this is Off Leash with Eric Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Okay, now listen, if you are concerned about your data privacy, if you are sick and tired of Google commanding the search space, this is absolutely the Off Leash episode you've got to watch. We're going to cover data privacy and the best solutions in the market today for the latest search engine. Eric, look, I got to tell you, I've been excited very much about doing this interview today. With Brave browser. I'm a user of Brave browser. And I got to tell you, in this new era, with the golden age coming up for America under Donald Trump, I believe we can actually finally apply antitrust laws against companies like Google, give a chance for people to have their data protected, data privacy, just like with Unplugged. This is going to be a very special conversation. I want to get your thoughts first before we turn to our guest.
Surveillance capitalism has exploded. It's a reason why the two most wealthiest companies in the world exist is because of the collection and resale of people's personal data. And it's in an era of AI, it's even more dangerous to have that much more personal information out there available to the highest bidder and available for AI to effectively digitally groom you by what it puts back in your face. So this is a super timely conversation, and it's super necessary. And I think most people in the world are like a slowly boiled frog. They have no idea just how bad it is, and eventually it's going to consume them unless they wise up and jump out.
And these tech companies that have been manipulating our data, stealing our data for ad money, they are not going to go out easily. They're going to fight like hell, right?
Yeah, of course. With lobbying dollars in Washington, with effectively digital grooming that they push back in your face, they will fight like crazy to maintain their status quo, their position of elite prominence.
Well said. Well, let's not hold everybody up. Let's bring in our guest. Luke Mulks is the VP of Business Operations for the Brave browser. Luke, we are delighted to have you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
So this is exciting for us because you are a pioneer in the new era of protecting data privacy. You know, everybody, unfortunately, we all agree to the terms of service with any of these platforms that we utilize, not knowing what we're giving up. I want to hear all about the background of the Brave browser, the founding, what was the thought behind it. Take us back to 2016, was it?
Yeah, so Brave initially started earliest version, kind of had a very, very small release in 2015, but then 2016 we brought our first kind of version to market, and the whole idea here is that the browser is the kind of last line of defense between the user and the web, and even browsers even known as the user agent. But the problem is that all these big tech companies have created this blob of surveillance capitalism that basically has taken and manipulated that user agency and made commercial interests before the user. So what Brave started is kind of founded by Brendan Eich, who created JavaScript and co-founded Mozilla, Firefox, and brought a lot of great tech to the world. Basically, you got to build software that puts users first, and by putting users first, you focus on maintaining strong privacy, security, and every decision you make, you always prioritize that benefit of the user. So we launched the browser in 2016. We brought a search engine to market a couple of years later. That is the third independent index outside of Google and Bing in the market, and we've been kind of proving out this thesis over time that people actually care about their privacy.
Yeah, Luke, if you would, just stick with the technology for a second. So if you would make a distinction for our viewers between the browser and the search engine and sort of explain how the two are different.
Yeah, so the browser basically is your window to the web. So all the web pages you navigate go through it, and you've got Chrome is the majority market share of the browser. So it's a really key piece there because everything that you do site to site, people sync their data from their browser across devices, across desktop and mobile devices. It's really kind of that threshold. When you think about what's on the browser itself, your browsing history, passwords, all of your sensitive, most personal data is in that browser profile, and so it's really kind of the key vehicle that you're using to open up this whole web to you. And then the search engine is you're going there. That's where you put your intent in and your queries, and you're getting all of that information in. And so if you have both of those things, a dominating monopoly on both of those things with the wrong intentions and in a way that's user hostile, you get to know everything about the user. And so what Brave does is basically say, look, our whole premise is that we want to have deniability. So we intentionally build the technology to not individually know who our users are. So you won't see like the users signing up for the browser with a email account or anything like that. Like we position ourselves in a way so that whether it's a government authority or a hacker or anything, a disaster, if something were to happen and someone were to gain access to Brave servers, we have none of your information. So nobody really builds like that, especially if you go back to 2016. Nobody was doing this in the space. We were getting kind of like laughed out of meetings when we talked about trying to kind of build businesses and business lines and make a web where you could transact with privacy and protect the user, and people were kind of like, well, why would we care? Users are putting all their information out there, et cetera. But I think a lot of it requires going to that first principle of protecting the user and building for the user instead of building for all of the other interests ahead of the user.
Along that, to talk about search, Google pays Apple $19 billion a year at least to make their browser the preeminent one sitting on an iPhone, all because they're there to collect people's data. Obviously, it's worth $19 billion worth of ad revenue and intel on their customers to pay Google that much. And it keeps going up year over year.
And they really
so that's
got
revealing.
It's really kind of gross too, like when you look at the charade that is the big tech space right now, because you have an entity like Google that has Chrome and search, they're majority player in both, and then they also have these deals with Mozilla and with Apple, like Eric highlighted. But there's Mozilla deal that they have is like $400 to $450 million a year, where they're the default search engine in Chrome's competitor, right? And so the rot's kind of everywhere on the revenue side, with the standards bodies around the way that the web standards are put together are majority, weighted to these companies. It's really, you're not going to change it unless you have a new company that comes in and disrupts the status quo. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And that's why with the product, we block all of the third-party tracking and that surveillance capitalism component by default and to protect the user's privacy. And then, when you have that kind of clean slate, you can start to build new ways to handle accounting to still get something that's of interest in front of the user without having to collect all this data on them, because all that data is in the browser. So if we can just separate that from the cloud and use those local information that's on the device, we don't need to have all of these other companies knowing everything that you're doing.
It's interesting. I'm a Brave user, and I wouldn't search without it. But interestingly, and call me paranoid if you want, but I'm a Mac user. And on my Mac, as I start using it, I've got all my startup apps down in a row below. And sure enough, every couple of weeks, the icon that I click on to use Brave disappears from that list. And I have to go back into my downloads and reset it up. I do it diligently because I'm not going to let Apple take away my Brave app. So I don't know if that's paranoid or not, but I think big tech is fighting hard against you.
They fight aggressively and often, and we've seen it since we've started the company. There are these things called dark patterns, and they come in different shapes and sizes, right? On Windows machines, whenever you would go and do a major system update, they would kind of try to either directly override your decisions, or they would make it so that it's really easy to have other defaults set when you go and just do a system update. This is what's so insane about all of this, is that while they've been doing these things, they've also been getting deeper into the device level with the tracking. So now you have to have like an email account that you register with the operating system. And now Chrome is trying to get you to sign into the browser. And so once you're authenticated in the browser with the biggest ad tech company on the planet, this just gets more and more pervasive over time. And so Brave's basically trying to be the antidote to all of that, and it has definitely come with challenges. We've seen it on a lot of different levels, but also just blatant negligence, by regulators as well. And that's another part of this. Like big tech is big tech, but we've seen in 2018 the EU released a GDPR, which is like some of the strongest privacy regulation in the world, and they haven't. They're not using their authority to even go after the problems that they admit exist. We did a whole bunch of work in this front in 2019, and you even had regulators saying this open RT, this is real time bidding, programmatic advertising model that has accelerated the privacy problem in ways that people are totally unaware of. They've said these things are basically illegal under the GDPR, but no one's enforcing the law. And so, what's the point, right? Like, it really comes down to you have to take control of this yourself, and you have to take responsibility for using tools to kind of limit your footprint. And it's you can't wait. Politicians are not going to save you. Regulators are not going to save you. The big tech companies, a lot of them are going to lie to you. And so it means building software that's open source, easy to access, available for everybody, and people can go and they can check the code. We go out, we're there. Software mistakes inevitably are going to happen, and if you plan for that, and you're straight up with your user base and you communicate to them, it pays back tenfold. And we've seen this happen to where a lot of this was theory 9 years ago around people caring. We have 84 million monthly active users globally on Brave, and we're doing close to 14 billion annual search queries. And that's the best proof that people care about their privacy, is that they see the good benefits you get from that as a user, but also people, when they have choice, they will go and use what's available that protects them.
Eric, what blows me away is we knew so little 9 years ago about the corruption of big tech and the vision it took to come up with an alternative search engine that actually prioritizes your data privacy. It's incredible to me that they had this vision back then, don't you think?
Yeah, I can honestly say my vision on privacy didn't go back that far, but it certainly came into being clearly focused after the 2020 election and seeing people suppressed in free speech and then pushing back on whatever COVID narrative there was. All these things require a different path to be taken, and Brave has provided one. We've provided a similar one with Unplugged, that people can get off the digital swamp and regain their privacy, their First and Fourth Amendment rights. I think it's all going to come to a head if people aren't careful.
Yeah, but I can't imagine the pushback. I can't imagine the attacks on a disruptor. Eric, you're certainly starting to see it with Unplugged, and we'll get into sort of the Unplugged platform, which off-leash viewers are very acquainted with. But the pushback that Brave, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well, Luke, that disruptors like you, Eric, and like Brave, the pushback for big tech has got to be withering.
Yeah, they certainly find every way to make our life difficult. Even videos on YouTube are suppressed. YouTube is owned by Google, so it's everywhere. In the same kind of blockage that Brave encounters in not getting put on, or making it very difficult to go on people's laptops or smartphones. It's privacy is hard, and but it doesn't have to be. And we've both companies have taken significant steps to make that a lot easier to do, but still getting people to transition and say, yes, I actually value my privacy and I'm going to do something about it. That's the $330 million person question. How many Americans will choose to get out of the boiling pot or to sit and be boiled?
Luke, for Brave, what's that been like going up against
Yeah,
big
no,
tech and the
it's a
pushback?
great. The pushback's been all over the place. We deal with it at different levels too. Things like browser releases, and other things. It's always kind of no. It's never really blatantly. I mean, the evidence is there, but no one will ever really cop up to anything, right? Like, it's that's not the way that these things work with them. But I think that our users are pretty militant on this, but just to kind of play on Eric's point too, around how are you going to get people to do it? And I think what people don't really realize initially is just a lot of the benefits you get when you have better privacy. The internet, like, your connection gets so bogged down with junk from all of these third parties, and you can go some of these news sites, CNN, all of them are bad. You go and it just feels like they never stop loading because they never actually do. They always are calling, phoning home, sending more of your data. They have all these auctions running all the time in the background. Users have no idea what's going on, even with all the cookie, consent things and all of that. And so just by wiping that out, turning off that noise, you end up saving gigabytes of data over time. You end up having pages load faster. One of the biggest growth hacks we've had has just been the ability to have a really great YouTube experience in Brave, and how the experience has gotten so terrible there that by blocking third-party ads and having background playback and things like that, you almost kind of get a YouTube premium experience for free just by using the Brave browser. And so I think when you can make this convenience factor with matching a lot of the parity with features that users expect, and that's been our challenge. Like, we've had to think about, how can you make it so that users can onboard really easily, move everything over in less than a minute? And we put a lot of heads on making that happen, and then making sure that the security-wise, we're always up on the latest versions of everything. Like, it really makes a big difference. And so if you can actually make the benefits of privacy something that the user can feel without them having to explain it, because honestly, users shouldn't need to know all of this stuff. Companies shouldn't be behaving this way. You shouldn't have to go and consent to 40 or 50 or 60 companies you've never heard of collecting your information just so you can have a free web. That's not how this should work. And so it's not going to work better until alternatives come to market that are going to change things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm super excited about it. But you really just got to make a better user experience. And you go to a recipe site in Brave. You're going to actually find the recipe. It's not littered in ads. And what I tell people to do is go use us for a week. Go try your other browser, and just realize what you've been missing, because people become blind to this too. They just are so used to the experience getting crappier and crappier over time, and it should be getting better. Like, innovation should bring better ease of use, better experience, all of that, and it's just kind of fallen over the wayside. So a lot of the wins just come from look, you have benefits of having privacy improvements in your life, and a lot of that's just also coming ahead, unfortunately, because of a lot of the breaches and the other bad behavior that's out there hitting more and more people, and that's inevitably going to get worse and worse with AI, hitting these new levels in adoption.
What do you make of AI with as much personal data is collected by big tech? What does that digital grooming look like?
If it's I think checked? People have. You're talking about over a decade of data that's been collected on almost every user with an internet connection. People are really, they have no idea how bad it is. You hear people try to draw a comparison with things like social credit scores. I mean, social credit ratings and things like that are out there. This has been going on. It's just not been in your face. FICO blogs about using third-party analytics to help make decisions around, lending and things like that. This stuff's out there. When you mate AI adoption and the ability to kind of set parameters and automate a lot of potential discrimination against people and things like that, is terrifying. But then the other area too, around more and more of a cashless society, if you don't have private transaction options as well that have at least somewhat parity to properties that cash has, right? Where you can transact privately. not only is your browsing behavior out there, but also your financial habits, and these things just get compoundingly worse. And so right now, there's no more critical time. Like, it's basically, you're kind of at the point of the moment of the point of no return with a lot of this stuff. If companies don't come out and bring alternatives out right now, we're long gone, and there's no hope. So I think, it's why I'm excited to see kind of Unplugged entering this market at the device level, because it's not just about the software. You have to have these two things working together, because these big tech companies have just brought the collection closer and closer to the hardware. And so if you're not thinking about this from an operating system and a browser and a search level, like, all of these things have to kind of cover your bases and your interests, if you want to have good privacy, basically.
Eric, Luke just reminded me of the discussions we've had here on Off Leash about the unplugged phone and your priority on hardware and the operating system. So I understand that you've partnered with Brave, and the unplugged phone is preloaded with the Brave browser. So tell me a little bit about that partnership, Eric, and I'd love to hear from you and Luke about how significant that is with the operating system and the hardware marrying up with the browser.
Sure. The reason we did the unplugged phone is, as Luke said, you can't do it with just software. You have to do the hardware. And so we're in control of the operating system that's running on that hardware. And so, Brave is obviously the logical choice for someone that's interested and focused on data privacy. And so putting it as an installed app on the unplugged phone was a no-brainer, because, again, our hardware, our operating system, combined with their search capability, it's actually how it's supposed to be. So again, in the same way a Brave browser protects your browsing history and doesn't let all those websites collect on you, you need to do it at the root basis of the operating system, and work in concert with whatever apps are sitting on your device. And if not, it's a flawed solution, and AI is not getting dumber. It's getting more and more pervasive. And between data brokers that are looking to sell you things, and now they're empowered with AI, it's a nightmare if people don't take action and actually secure their data, and protect their privacy and their free speech.
Well, I got to tell you, you guys are brilliant, because what a great marriage. Luke, I just can't imagine a better partnership with Unplugged. Moving those things together, the hardware with your browser. Tell me a little bit more about the significance of that partnership and what the future holds for it.
It's been huge for us. I mean, like, when you talk about how the thing about the big tech space and the effect on the consumer market, it's huge. Like, it's not just that all of this tracking is happening; it's that the deal structures are just so much against newcomers that what we've never shipped as the default with search in the browser on a hardware device. Like, this is the first instance of us being able to do this, because it took somebody like Eric and Unplugged that were open to doing this. I mean, and that's just it's wild that of all the options that are out there, and that's what I mean earlier. You have to have a startup that kind of enters the market, because all the other manufacturers have these sweetheart deals with these big tech companies that go against the user by default. So it's been really great for us to be able to have this, and it's also been great to get the feedback from Unplugged users, because when you don't collect personal data from your user base, what we have to do is communicate with those users. And we've seen Unplugged community come and talk to us about the browser, things that they want to see, things that they like, things that they don't like. We love all of that. I mean, and I think it's setting an example. It's leading by example in the market when you need examples like this in the market. So we're super excited about this, and we hope that others take note and start to ship better defaults to people.
Hey, Luke, walk me through how Brave allows users to monetize their own search, because the existing model is big tech collects data through their browsing, through your device, and they sell that data to interested advertising companies. Walk us through how Brave does that differently and allows the person who is browsing, to actually collect monetary benefit for wherever they go.
Yeah, sure. No, it's a great question. So, the way this typically works is that you would go to a website. All of these third parties collect your data. They bid on an advertising opportunity and then send you an ad. And then a lot of these companies have built businesses out of monetizing that data. But ultimately, if you're a brand, you want to advertise what you are selling to the user and then have that result in a transaction. It's not that complicated. And so a lot of what the tracking that's out there is doing is being used for accounting purposes and for targeting purposes. And so at Brave, we tackled this in two ways. One, we used these things called zero knowledge proofs to basically prove that something happened, like a double-blinded voting system, so that we can account for an event that happened without linking that to a user. So if you can do that, you can solve the accounting problem. And we've done that with advertising, so that we can show a marketer, hey, you can actually measure performance of your campaign and get that return on investment and be able to defend your spending decisions. And we can do that privately and anonymously, so you can be anonymous and accountable. The other side of it's around targeting, right? So the browser has all of your browsing history. Think about that, right? Like, you can go look and see what sites you browsed. The browser has everything on it. So what we did is, instead of having all of these decisions for what happens, what ads get shown to you happening in the cloud by all these third parties, we just moved machine learning onto the browser, so that it can evaluate locally on the browser, on your device, like what you're browsing, and then show you an ad that's relevant to what you're browsing. So it just kind of simplifies the whole thing by putting a smart ad server directly in the browser itself. So we're able to kind of it's working off that full profile. It's not working off of fragments of you or different versions of you that are saved in the cloud. And then we have a way of accounting for activities that happen, so that a marketer can say, great, I ran my ad campaign. It delivered this many conversions. I don't care if it's Luke or Eric or Mark who did the thing, because if I want to make a relationship with them, they can give me their email address from the website. Like, we just need to solve the problem of getting something relevant in front of the user. With search, it's great because the user's going to the search engine to put their intent out there. So all we have to do on the commercial side is put an ad at the top that is just as good or not better than what they would get organically, which we can totally do. That's not an impossible problem, as that's what we've done with Brave Search. But then we also added this element with Brave Rewards. So if users want to, they can opt into Brave Rewards, and they can actually earn basic attention tokens, which is our cryptocurrency, like, as they browse. So they can earn a percentage of the revenue that they see for the ads they view, and actually get revenue share for their attention, which nobody's really done this before. But if you don't have users, you don't have an attention economy, and users have gotten fleeced and they haven't gotten rewarded. And so we built this model. We released it in 2019, and users can actually earn from browsing in Brave, which no one's really done this way, in a way that's as private as we do it, and is like open and transparent.
Eric, you loaned me a book called The Myth of Capitalism: Monopolies and the Death of Competition by Jonathan Tepper and Denise Hearn. And a big focus of the book, the premise of it was that the federal government has failed to fulfill its responsibilities under antitrust law. These
True.
massive tech monopolies have been able to go on and duopolies too, by the way, have been able to go on and on and on and grow to these leviathans that the federal government can't get under control if it had the will. The Google antitrust case potentially is an exception to that rule, although I've been mistrusting of the case all along. So clearly the outcome of the case is still to be determined, the final outcome against Google. And as you may recall, Apple tried to join that action because they're trying to cover their own backside. But talk to me a little bit about your thoughts about tech antitrust and how significant Brave and Unplugged are in under those circumstances.
Like we said before, Google pays Apple $13 billion to put their browser only, the only one on an iPhone. So the collusion, the heft, the throw weight that these guys have to drive out good ideas that are focused on free speech and privacy, they use that market dominant power ad nauseum. 110 years ago, Rockefeller broke up. Teddy Roosevelt broke up Standard Oil, owned by Rockefeller, because it had come to dominate the hydrocarbon space all across America. That's exactly what Google does, and Apple and Facebook. They have hegemony in those spaces, and they need to reform their action, or they need to be made into multiple smaller companies, which is still accretive to the shareholders. They're not looking at nationalizing something or taking away value, but we want to actually. It's one of the jobs of the federal government is to ensure competition and an equal playing field for people to compete in the commercial space.
Luke, with regard to the antitrust trial against Google, what has stood out to you the most about it, and what opportunity lies within this case for Brave?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be really interesting to see how this remedy process goes with the different parties involved. And so, there's for us, it's like we just won a level playing field. We believe we're building highly competitive product that's grown the more that people are aware of it. And so whatever the remedy is, we see it as a good opportunity for Brave to get out there more and more. And, at the end of the day, we just want a fair market where we can compete against the incumbents and not have to have, all the maneuvering that we're having to do that takes us away from having to build a better product. But our product is better. People are moving to it. And once they move, they move with their feet. And is setting an example for the rest of the market. So it'd be interesting to see how the case shakes out. There's a lot of complexity to it. It deals with search and browsing and a lot of areas. And then you've got, regional, antitrust cases too. But when we've seen these things happen in Europe, we've seen benefits to Brave that have come out of it. Even just with the press attention from this, it's helpful. So yeah, luckily it seems like, these cases are continuing to go forward with the changing of the guard in the administration. And so it'll be interesting to see it unfold in the months ahead.
And Mark, let me make one point on that. Like in boxing or UFC, it's never a great idea to let it go to the judges. And leaving it to the courts to do that is bad. The courts have been wrong a lot, consistently. People can take action and control their privacy and control their data leakage now. Don't wait on the Supreme Court to save you.
Look, like I said, this is an amazing partnership between Unplugged and Brave, and we've got warriors here for our off-leash audience, the disruptors in the marketplace, and I know they're going to be successful, with the hardware from the Unplugged phone, the built-in browser on Unplugged. Look, Eric, this has been a great conversation. I want to hear from you and Luke, your thoughts about what lies ahead in the marketplace and how our viewers can help support these products so they can grow and our data privacy can grow with it.
Luke, let me ask you, what does AI look like in a era of surveillance capitalism where most people are used to giving away all their data through their cell phone, through their browser? And what does that look like 5 years from now with AI?
Unchecked, you lose. You basically lose the integrity of open information, whatever is left of it, and you live in a world where algorithms are even greater control across greater surfaces than you're at, and you couple that with the potential for financial institutions to basically turn your money off if you're not complying. It's a pretty dystopian reality that we're not very far away from. And I hate to be dark on it, but that's just where it goes if we don't do our jobs and get better tools and solutions out there for people.
Yeah, to me, it's the creeping social credit scores of the Chinese Communist Party in a cashless society where they can shut you off with the click of a mouse, where you're debanked, you can't buy, you can't even access your funds, so you can't eat, you can't pay your bills. It is the ultimate control, and so it all comes down to data privacy, security and communications, and cash, or alternate means of funding that are not controlled by some federal central entity.
Yeah, I'd align with that. And I think, people talk about freedom a lot, and you cannot have freedom without privacy. I mean, the founders knew this, and, there's a Fourth Amendment for a reason. And, if the politicians aren't going to do their part, then we're going to build tech that, codifies that.
You know what scares the hell out of me, guys, is if we did not have alternatives. I can't believe the vision of Brave back in 2016. 9 years ago. I mean, that was such forward thinking. And then Eric, you've been at it with Unplugged now for 2 or 3 years. If we didn't have in the marketplace disruptors like you to give us these alternatives, we would be cooked and our freedoms would be gone with it. Let me get your last thoughts from each of you before we close out.
Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, no, I think it hits a nail on the head. It is easier now to take charge of your privacy than it's ever been. These solutions are out there. There are more and more growing with them. They're getting millions of people using them. It's not hard to do this. It used to be difficult. You'd have to make all these trade-offs. It's not that hard to do that anymore. You can just go to brave.com, download the product in 60 seconds and convert your stuff over, or get an unplugged phone that's got Brave on it. And even try the search engine out like from another browser if you want. But I think the accessibility is out there. We're not slowing down. We're building AI that, is user first. We're hitting this on every front right now. Giving people the tools they need to protect themselves.
Yeah. We started Unplugged 4 years ago as a pushback on Big Brother, the government, and big tech, because we viewed the First and Fourth Amendments as so essential, prerequisite for a free society. And the Unplugged phone is not a right-wing phone or a left-wing phone. It's for anyone that actually values their privacy and their data security. People can check it out at unplugged.com. They're in stock, coming with a Brave browser installed. So it's Unplugged is I think we've got 12,000 units now in the marketplace, and more and more people are getting on board every day. We've got some exciting announcements, and big tech and AI beware, because there's at least there's an off ramp for people that actually want to do themselves right and take control of their data security.
Oh, this has been a fantastic conversation. Eric, thank you for bringing Luke on board here so we can learn about Brave and the Unplugged partnership. Luke, we appreciate your time joining with us today.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
And my best advice for Brave is grow, 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 and Unplugged as well. And look, the answer for our off-leash audience and our friends across the country is you've got to take this next step. You've got to go to brave.com. You've got to download that browser. No more Google. It's stealing your data right from underneath you. And go to unplugged.com/off-leash to get your Unplugged phone today. It's been a fabulous conversation. You're going to get more of this on Off-Leash soon. For now, this is Off-Leash with Eric Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Thanks for joining us.